Tonight, Reform gains an MSP as the Tories lose their third since April. Graham Simpson defects to the party of Nigel Farage, saying he wants to put people over the system. Also on tonight's programme.
The gas bill and the electric bill just rise all the time. You have no say in the matter. They just do it.
We hear from the pensioners struggling to pay the bills as energy prices rise once again.
Coming up in tonight's sport, Rangers fight for their place in the Champions League against Club Brugge, while Celtic count the cost of missing out. And how is AI changing the face of football? We hear from the clubs using the technology to scout for new talent. Hello, I'm Laura Miller. This is Reporting Scotland. The Conservative MSP Graham Simpson has defected to Reform. He made the announcement as he appeared at a media conference in West Lothian alongside the UK party leader Nigel Farage. Mr Simpson, who represents Central Scotland on the regional list, said it was an enormous wrench to leave the party he joined when he was 15, but he wanted to create something new and exciting. Our political correspondent Andrew Kerr was at the event this morning.
Striding into a West Lothian hotel and swooping up a defector, Nigel Farage is trying to give his party a boost in Scotland ahead of the Holyrood election.
We'll be taking those elections next year very seriously indeed. And I think our opponents might take us quite seriously as well.
Then an introduction for a new member.
He, of course, has been a Conservative, but I understand, Graham, that may be about to change.
Graham Simpson said it was an enormous wrench to leave his party, but had joined the new kid in the block.
I've joined Reform because we have the chance to create something new, exciting and lasting that puts the needs of people over the system, that asks what is going wrong and how we can fix it.
Time for questions and answers. After Mr Farage had talked specifically about concerns over net zero and immigration, I asked him this.
When it comes to Reform and looking ahead to next year, is your party just a two-trick pony in Scotland?
Oh, I'm a two-trick pony now, not a one-trick pony. Well, that's progress, isn't it? We must be going in the right direction. Well, yes, we do talk about the small boats because there is a sense of outrage amongst a very clear majority of the British public on this issue. And we'll talk more broadly about the economy. We'll talk more broadly about the tax system. We'll talk about the fact small businesses have been disincentivised. So, no, we are far from being a two-trick pony. But if the SNP are unhappy with us, I haven't got a problem with that.
Graham Simpson is the third MSP to quit the Scottish Conservatives in 4 months. He was answering questions too.
You were elected as a Scottish Conservative MSP on the regional list. You're now no longer a Conservative. Should you now resign from Parliament?
This has happened before, of course. I think it's an issue that possibly the Parliament should look at in the future. I've still got work to do. I've got a very important bill going through Parliament which would introduce a system of recall into the Scottish Parliament. I want to see that through.
Away from the hubbub, the UK Conservative leader reacted.
Is that we are the only voice on the right. Reform is talking about nationalisation. That's not a centre-right policy. Reform is talking about even more welfare, when welfare is at a record high. That is not a centre-right policy. The people who are leaving the Conservative Party are showing that they were never Conservatives.
A Scottish Labour MP said the UK government is returning illegal immigrants and breaking up people's smuggling gangs. Reform UK honed in on immigration yesterday with their detain and deport policy. Here's some context on the situation here.
In Scotland, we have, as of June 2025, we had 6,100 people who were being supported. And that includes people, for example, living in hotels and people living in dispersal accommodation, which is basically flats and shared houses across the community.
As he takes on the Tories, Nigel Farage also says he wants to get rid of the SNP at Holyrood.
This is the tale as old as time. What we have here is a wealthy man backed by even wealthier men stirring up division and fear in our communities amongst ordinary people to serve their own political ends.
Nigel Farage's presence attracts significant media attention. He'll hope it will attract voters too.
Well, Andrew is here now. Andrew, just put this in context for us then. How significant is this, both for Reform and for the Scottish Conservatives?
Yeah, it's significant for both parties, particularly for Russell Finlay, the Scottish Tour leader, because no one really criticises him, but he's losing MSPs at quite a rate. 3 in 4 months. Jamie Green went off to the Lib Dems in April. Jeremy Balfour went to sit as an independent last week, and now they've lost Graham Simpson to Reform. So I suppose it shows the Scottish Tory party is a broad church. It used to accommodate people from all those thoughts in a sense, but Nigel Farage was picking up on that issue today. He was saying it's a broad church, but it's got no religion, no faith that binds it together. So as we look ahead to the election next year, he'll be looking for more converts. So significant for him. Yeah,
and this defection, people might remember, comes just a day after that big speech from Nigel Farage on immigration. As you say, we're now less than a year out from the Holyrood election. How big an issue do you think that's going to be in the campaign?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty big issue, even though in Scotland we do feel maybe a bit removed from the small boats arriving in the coast of southern coast of Kent. It's a sensitive issue. Professor Sir John Curtis, the polling expert, was saying today that Reform are touching on a raw nerve because people are really interested in this issue as well. That policy they set out of detain and deport has a lot of public support as well. It's a real headache for the Labour government now. Scottish Labour MPs are saying they have a suite of policies to attempt to tackle the illegal immigration problem, but they admit it won't be solved quickly. They are hoping for progress in the next year as they try to tackle it. But actually, the election's not that far away. What progress will there be before voters go to the polls and think about immigration? A reserved issue to Westminster, but important for the Holyrood election.
OK, Andrew, thank you. Well, Graham Simpson, Scotland's only Reform MSP, sat down with us in the Scotcast studio after that media conference this morning to talk more about why he defected from the Scottish Conservatives and how he really feels about sitting alongside his former colleagues when Holyrood returns next week. Find it now on BBC Sounds and on iPlayer later. Now, energy prices have risen again, meaning a typical household will pay £35 more a year on gas and electricity, up to £1,055 a year. The increase is more than forecasters were expecting and will kick in October. It comes off the back of a rise in inflation, with prices rising 25% over the past 5 years. Our business correspondent David Henderson has been talking to some pensioners about their bills.
Time for a cuppa at Orbiston Neighbourhood Centre. Pensioners from around Bells Hill come here for company and a chat about what's on their mind. Today it's the price of energy and the cost of living.
Energy bills are up, supermarket bills are up, everything's up. If you can't walk, you have to get a taxi down to the supermarket. It costs you more money, and our money hasn't went up.
The gas bill and the electric bill just rise all the time. You have no say in the matter. They just do it.
I have to actually sit to balance my money because with the increase in where the bills going, I've got to make sure I've got money to pay for the bills that are essentials.
Many of us were able to turn down or turn off our heating during the summer, but with autumn on its way, household bills look set to rise once again. The regulator Ofgem's lifting the energy price cap by 2% from October. That means a typical household will see their annual bill go up to £1,755. And stubbornly high bills mean some of us are racking up energy debt, with the Citizens Advice Service now advising thousands who are affected, even in the spring and early summer when the weather's warmer.
Let's be clear here, this is people getting into debt, not from recklessness, not from profligacy, but getting into debt just to live, just to survive, just to keep the lights on. It's a completely untenable situation, and it's an avoidable one as well.
Earlier this summer, the Prime Minister bowed to pressure by restoring winter fuel payments for most pensioners. The Scottish Government followed suit. But even that limited package of support will cost UK taxpayers more than £1 billion a year.
The price of gas is still 75% higher than it was before the invasion of Ukraine, and we're still paying the price for that. That's the fossil fuel penalty of us being tied as a country far too closely to gas prices. And that's why, as a government, we're driving forward as fast as possible to remove that volatility of gas and to deliver clean, homegrown, secure power that will bring down bills.
But that can't happen overnight, and with energy prices on the rise once more, heating anything comes at a cost.
Well, David's here now. David, clearly this situation is difficult for so many people, but how likely is it to change anytime soon?
Well, of the last 5 price cap changes, 4 of them have seen prices rise. So there's a trend there, Laura, and it's not a good one. How high they will go depends on world energy prices, and they're really hard to predict because they depend on outside events. Will war in Ukraine grind on? Will there be fresh conflict between Israel and Iran? Will European countries stockpile enough liquid gas in order to get them through the winter without surprises? Whatever the forces are at play, we're looking here at a winter with prices just that little bit higher than they were. Then in the new year, some experts think prices will fall a bit. But even if that does happen, the price cap is just so much higher than it was before the pandemic. Prices will be that bit higher too.
And if bills do stay high, what is the longer term impact of that?
Well, the impact particularly will have a huge impact on households on low incomes, because the cost of energy just absorbs so much of your money in that situation. Remember, it's not the only price which is on the rise. Last week we had some bad news on inflation, with prices of basic items like food and petrol rising pretty fast. And all this piles pressure on the government to do something to deal with the cost of living squeeze. Now, during the summer, of course, the Prime Minister performed that U-turn. He reached out and is offering more help to pensioners again. But as Citizens Advice have been telling us today, it's working families and it's younger people who are racking up that energy debt too. And they want to see pretty radical action, a debt write-off and what they call social tariffs, in other words, discounted prices for low-income families to make energy affordable to everyone this winter.
OK, David, thank you. To some of the day's other stories now. And a 12-year-old girl has been charged after allegedly brandishing a weapon on a street in Dundee on Saturday evening. Footage has been circulating on social media, accompanied by speculation over the ethnicity and actions of the Bulgarian couple allegedly confronted by the girl. Police have urged people not to share misinformation about this incident or speculate on the circumstances. A new group is being set up to support council responses to so-called RAC issues in their communities. The Housing Secretary, Mary McCallan, made the announcement during a visit to Dundee, where she met whose homes are affected by the potentially dangerous concrete. Hundreds of properties across Scotland contain RAC. Some are due to be demolished, others are undergoing remedial work. Right, the news at 7 is coming up on the BBC Scotland channel shortly. Laura McKeever is here. Who are you speaking to tonight, Laura?
Energy Action Scotland have been giving some advice, hopefully, on energy bills. We've also done an interview with Migration Watch, who you heard from earlier, about the actual facts around asylum numbers here in Scotland. Also, a metal detectorist who has discovered a Viking bronze in the Western Isles tells us all about that too.
Good, varied as ever. Thank you, Laura. Tonight's main news again. And Conservative MSP Graham Simpson has defected to Reform. He announced his move as he appeared at a press conference in West Lothian with Reform leader Nigel Farage.
Still to come in tonight's sport, it's a big night for Rangers as they look to book their place in the Champions League, but they need to come from behind against Club Brugge.
The state-owned Ferguson shipyard is still waiting to receive most of the £14.2 million of Scottish Government investment it was promised more than a year ago. The yard in Port Glasgow needs to win new work if it is to have a long-term future. Well, our news correspondent Jamie McIver is at the yard for us this evening. Jamie, just remind us of the background to this, because this is the latest part of a long-running saga which involves huge amounts of public money.
Indeed, a long-running saga costing hundreds of millions of pounds worth of public money. First, it's a place where work's been taking place on the 2 new ferries for Arran, between them some 7 years late and 4 times over budget. Then there's been the support given to the yard itself, which was brought into public ownership back in 2019. The big question is over what will happen once the work on the second of the new Arran ferries, the one you can see just now, the Glenrosa, once that's finished next year, because so far the yard has been unable to secure new orders for new ships, and without those new orders it could very well face closure.
So what about this £14.2 million they're due?
Yes, it was promised last year by the Deputy First Minister, Kate Forbes, and the whole idea was to make that money available to the yard to help it invest in new machinery, to help it become more efficient, to improve its prospects of winning new orders. But as things stand, the yard has yet to see the vast bulk of that money. Now, the GMB, which is the biggest union at the yard, it's worried. It says the investment is essential to restore the yard's reputation. The Scottish Government says ministers are committed to invest up to £14.2 million in the yard over 2 years, subject, it says, to due diligence and commercial standards being met. I think the issue here is that the earlier Ferguson's gets that money, the greater the chance it has of winning new orders and surviving. But the clock is ticking.
OK, Jamie in Port Glasgow, thank you. OK, let's get tonight's sport now with Sheila. Celtic will still be licking their wounds, but Rangers go in Europe tonight.
That's right, Laurie. A huge disappointment for Celtic, a real night to forget for them as their Champions League dream came to an end. 3 more Scottish sides in Europe this week, starting tonight, as you say. Hello there. Rangers head coach Russell Martin is full of optimism that his side can mount a memorable comeback to book their place in the Champions League, despite going into tonight's second leg against Club Brugge with a mountain to climb. The Belgians left Ibrox with a 3-1 win last week that puts them in the driving seat to progress to the league phase of Europe's top competition. And I have some team news for you. Cyril Dessers is on the bench following an injury. There's no place in the starting 11 again for captain James Tavernier, while Brazilian striker Danilo comes in from the start to spearhead the Rangers attack.
We've been in the other end of this position already twice, going into games not quite knowing how the opposition would approach it. So our energy and our mentality has to really alter their plan very quickly and make their energy change. So they're a good team, we know that. I think they felt we were a good team in the second half, and I hope we put enough good moments together in that second half to make sure that they have a little bit of fear of what's to come, and we're ready for them. So we're going to attack it and see where it takes us. It's exciting. This game is very much alive, and the tie is very much alive in our eyes.
The Celtic captain Callum McGregor says the team needs help and has urged the club to sign new players after crashing out of the Champions League in Kazakhstan. The Glasgow side lost on a penalty shootout to Kairat Almaty and will now drop into the Europa League. Paul Barnes reports.
Just really disappointed, to be honest. Somebody needs to be held accountable this time, and everybody's seen this coming.
I don't actually think it's the board's fault for that. It's the performance of the players. Our players should be able to beat them.
Potentially we could have got another 40 million quid into the club. Lost out on that because he maybe 3 players short.
Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers has repeatedly stressed his frustration at being unable to bring in strikers during a modest summer of signings. This was only reinforced by his team's inability to score in 210 minutes of football.
This was a great opportunity for us to be back there, but sadly we won't be. So plenty of endeavour, plenty of honesty, but the Champions League is a wee bit more than that.
I've played in so many bad games and many bad situations, and I've lost games, and you always look off the field things. You look yourself in the mirror, did you do enough? I never ever looked for a manager, I never looked for fans or board to take the blame. You always blamed yourself, so I think the players have got to take a little bit of it, or most of it, because they play the game.
Celtic's disappointment is twofold. Missing out on a place at the top table of European football, and with it, a financial sucker punch. Last year, they earned a total of almost £40 million in prize money, ticket sales and merchandise. All Champions League participants this season earned £15.5 million just for being there. But instead, it's the Europa League, where the prize for taking part is just £3.5 million.
We need help, we need the players, we need to have a strong squad if we want to compete in all fronts, and I mean that doesn't change after tonight. Like you say, maybe the financial situation might change, but the players still need help, we still need bodies in the door, and hopefully the club can do that.
But defeat would compound their misery. Paul Barnes, reporting Scotland.
Now, Hibernian head coach David Gray hopes the late goal they scored in their Conference League playoff first leg can give them belief as they try to get past Legia Warsaw tomorrow night. Josh Mulligan's 86th minute strike gave the Edinburgh side a lifeline in their 2-1 defeat at Easter Road last week, and Gray wants them to push on from that in Poland.
I spoke a lot about the momentum and what that does in games of football. Clearly there's a lot of football still to be played in the tie. There's 90 minutes to go, we're 1 goal down. It's not where we wanted to be, but it's certainly all to play for in the second leg. There's no distractions in between. It's something we spoke about as well. The benefits of cancelling the Falkirk game gives the players a full week to recover, to be ready for the biggest game of the season and the biggest game of potentially the Hibs' careers.
To tennis, and Jacob Fernley blamed nerves for serving 18 double faults in his first round victory at the US Open as he lined up a tie with world number 3 Alexander Zverev. The Scottish number 1 struggled with his serve throughout against Roberto Bautista Agut, but that didn't stop him taking the first 2 sets. The Spaniard fought back in the third before Fernley prevailed in a tight fourth in 3 hours and 24 minutes, the longest match of his career. Cameron Norrie is in second round action tonight against Francisco Comisana. And Glasgow City currently 0-0 and Hibernian both in Women's Champions League qualification tonight. You can watch Hibs live on the iPlayer at 7:30.
Good stuff. So lots going on the pitch. Lots going on too behind the scenes, especially in relation to AI. It is everywhere.
It's taking our jobs, Laura.
Well, hopefully not, but there we go. Yeah, because but half of Scotland's top clubs have told BBC Scotland they regularly use artificial intelligence to help them in areas like scouting. And our sports news correspondent Chris McLaughlin has been taking a look at how it's being used and what the future might look like.
It's a game of passion, instinct, sometimes even genius. The beautiful game is as human as it gets. But modern football, including in Scotland, is turning more to science, stats, machines, artificial intelligence. It's being used to look at players in training, used to assess injuries, and AI is being used ever more in scouting. St Mirren's head of recruitment was at Celtic for many years and was responsible for the signings of players like Virgil van Dijk and Moussa Dembele. And he thinks player simulation is the next big breakthrough.
So it won't be data and numbers. Do you think he'll fit he's got good numbers, he'll fit like a running 9, We'll have a simulated video of a player and he'll go straight to the manager with a simulated video and you'll think, look, he does fit us, or his style of play, because every manager's different.
So how might that work? Well, let's say Club X are interested in player Y, but they can't quite decide. What AI would do is take every single match that player Y has ever played and put it into a simulation, creating a new game with Club X, new teammates, new pressures, all generated by AI.
Lee Mooney was head of data insights at Manchester City for 6 years before starting his own company. He and others like him know big change is coming.
I definitely can see game strategies being figured out using AI and then players are trained on it. I can see that for sure. I can see AI simulators figuring out match strategies and then performance analysts figuring out how to teach that.
So what about here? Well, we asked all 12 Scottish top flight clubs if they use AI as part of their analysis, scouting and recruitment. On the proviso the results would remain anonymous, half said yes.
But not everyone is convinced by it.
Someone coming in for a business that's just turned over £100 million with a profit of £40 million doesn't necessarily make them a football person. They're a successful businessman, but doesn't make them a successful football person. So I think footballing, people making footballing decisions within your structure, I would trust that a lot more than AI.
We may be some way from this, but the game, like society, is changing. And just like society, those who get out in front could be the ones who benefit most. Chris McLaughlin, reporting Scotland.
Well, I'm pleased to see Judith is here live and in person in the studio with the weather. That's lovely.
Isn't it lovely? And Laura was giving me her expertise there on weather fronts earlier. I was very, very impressed indeed. She saw a front crossing the country. Here's that cloud, courtesy of that front line down the Clyde coast, but actually it's much brighter here as that front cleared away. Here it is over the Northern Isles, pushing in there tonight. Behind it we have, well, it's this low pressure system really throwing out rain or showers as a kind of lumbering low as we head through the next couple of days. But this feature here will start to develop out in the Atlantic, and this promises to bring more autumnal feel to things as we head through later Saturday and into Sunday. Some wet and windy weather for all. But in the meantime, here's our front. It's a weakening affair as it makes its way into the Northern Isles to bring a thicker cloud, bits and pieces of rain eventually becoming confined to Shetland. Behind it, some clear spells, but then we'll start to see showers making their way into western and southern Scotland to clearer skies up towards the northeast and around the Inverness area. Lows generally around the 10 Celsius mark. Into tomorrow, well, it's a mainly dry start. The best of any sunshine across the northeast and Caithness. Thicker cloud in the west and the southwest. Showers get going first thing across western areas, and they'll become more widespread as we head through the course of the day. We still have the remnants of today's front across the Northern Isles, bringing some, across Shetland I should say, bringing some cloud, bits and pieces of rain. It will brighten up here. Quite brisk southeasterly winds, but actually a glorious day for Orkney tomorrow, and we could see 18 Celsius here. Still a bit of a breeze though, and I won't be too clever about where we'll see the showers, but we certainly will see showers. Some heavy ones in the mix, maybe the odd rumble of thunder, and quite a brisk southeasterly wind along the east coast as well. And for western coastal areas it'll be breezy too, but again those showers hit or miss you. Most places I think will catch a shower, so take your brolly or your cagoule if you like, and always cloudier for the west coast closest to that low pressure system. The showers continue as we head into tomorrow evening and the overnight period as well. Maybe a slight easing. They'll start to gather across more western parts of the country by morning. Once again, a lot of showers in the forecast for Friday, some heavy ones as well, maybe the possibility of some thundery ones in the mix as well. Temperatures around about 18 Celsius, and it's all about this low pressure system on Saturday, autumnal.
Thank you, Judith. And that is Reporting Scotland. The late news is at 10:30. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.